Thanks so much for your time today. One of the first questions, I'm dealing a lot with kind of HR strategic thinking lately, and how technology and really technology innovation and disruption is really impacting not only the HR function but all businesses. Now we're hearing more and more, of course, about technologies like augmented reality and virtual reality. So, kind of, how are you seeing now VR starting to change the HR landscape?
Well, look, I think clearly this crazy time that we're living through is forcing a lot of companies to evaluate a new way of collaborating. And I think most people would agree that we don't need any more Zoom in our lives than we currently have. We've already got more than enough of it. And Zoom is very clearly not the panacea for solving all the enterprises training problems, assessment problems. And so I think what we're seeing in the HR function is possibly for the first time ever, um, a desire to really try and investigate whether there are better and different ways. And of course, one of the paths that they're going down is this path of, or this basket of technologies called XR, extended reality.
Mm,
Uh, and VR is obviously probably the most compelling part of that current family of
mm,
products. And so I think what you're seeing is this kind of exploration of different means of collaborating, interacting. That's what's really exciting. And so the pandemic has really been an accelerant for that kind of discovery phase. That's what we're seeing very clearly across the different enterprises that we're working with.
mm, mm. What about some specific examples that have been coming up lately?
So I think as a company, we've really tried to focus on skills development. That's really been the kind of sweet spot, and there's some good examples of that. But some of the more recent examples which show, I think, a kind of broadening of aspect. So a good current example would be onboarding. So if you think about today, many big companies are not able to get people to travel to their headquarters or to their new factory. So that kind of all important first phase where you're getting a new employee to be excited about this amazing company that they're joining, inspire them on their journey. So we're seeing with a very big tech company that unfortunately I can't name, but it's probably one of the most well known in the world. They can't fly everyone across to California to their beautiful campus. So they've asked us to recreate a very inspiring kind of 20-minute
Wow.
experience where the history of the company is told and they can sort of introduce new products, new ideas with the view to getting them excited. I
Mm,
think that's a great new use of technology at this kind of early phase of the onboarding
yeah.
um, experience.
Wow, that's an amazing example. I can only imagine. And what about in terms of kind of horizon scanning now going forward, let's say over the next 2 to 3 years? What do you think HR professionals kind of need to keep an eye on?
Well, look, this is stating the obvious, but there's a lot of younger people coming into the workforce, and a lot of those, the younger generations, are not wanting to be sat in a classroom and be taught in a traditional way. They're looking for different ways of interacting, different ways of consuming content, different ways of acquiring skills. A lot of those younger generations have been brought up on gaming, obviously very, very tech savvy. And so there's a desire to consume that content in a different way. So the HR profession has got to be very open to those new means of content consumption. And so that again is forcing a different type of thinking, a different type of approach. I think there is a desire for more control over the content and content that can be consumed on demand, maybe through a headset or maybe on a mobile.
Mm.
So I think the HR function needs to be perhaps a lot more nimble and creative than it might have traditionally been.
How do you kind of recommend any tips and tricks on staying up with the trends? Obviously, you're kind of in the industry, so you kind of live and breathe it. But for those that are very much outside of a technology arena, how do they stay on top, or at least a finger on the pulse of technology trends?
Well, I think they need to make sure that within their function, there are, a representative spread of age groups. I think if you keep asking the same question to the same age group, you're going to get a slight variation on that answer, but you're not going to get the kind of solution, I think, that is going to be transformative. So you want to be listening to the younger people on the team. It kind of sounds obvious, but these are the people that are consuming, the types of content.
What's your personal favorite? I mean, I know you've been in this business now for quite a few years. What's your kind of personal favorite in terms of VR application lately?
Well, I think one of the things, again, it's another sort of extension, perhaps a little bit beyond the enterprise, but looking at a kind of more customer-focused approach for one of our big FMCG clients. They have a very big push into sustainability and proving their sustainable credentials, and particularly the way that they source, in this instance, it's coffee beans. So what they're planning to do is run a content experience on a VR headset in a shop or a boutique, as they call it. So when you're about to, buy your coffee product, uh, before that happens, the sales assistant will say, "Why don't you just put on this headset for 10 minutes, and we're going to show you the journey that the bean takes all the way through the cycle to end up in the final product." So I think that's a really good imaginative way of using the technology.